Heyo, OmniDogs and OmniKittens. It's OmniDog here with part two of DC Absolutes. Whether you should get them, whether you should leave them alone, what your options are. So we'll start out with DC's Absolute of Court of Owls. This is not it. This is the standard edition. You can see I didn't go for Court of Owls. I decided to stick with the standard edition, and it's a good thing I did because I think the Absolute's going to end up an orphan. There's an Absolute Court of Owls, and they didn't follow up with any other Absolutes. And now an omnibus of Snyder and Capullo's New 52 stuff has been announced, which is great. I think they're going to follow up on the omnibus and release three, maybe four omnibuses. Three, how many volumes were there? You could probably get three volumes, three omnibuses there. I think that'd be, you could get enough. These are relatively thin. So I think they're going to go the omnibus route with that. And Court of Owls Absolute is going to be an orphan. So if you have it, fine. You've got a nice book. If you haven't upgraded yet, consider the omnibus. And I'm just going to go ahead and stick with these standard ones because I'm in downsizing mode. I don't need to upgrade. I'm fine. I'm okay. But if you haven't got it yet, if you've been waiting for something like this, the omnibus is the way to go. I wouldn't get the absolute. So then you've got absolutes of, speaking of Batman, Long Halloween, Dark Victory, and Haunted Night. The problem there is that Dark Victory's been out of print for quite a while and is commanding hefty prices on the aftermarket. So it's been hard to complete the set. Um, the good news is there's an omnibus now for the Loeb sale stuff, and you can get the omnibus for that. So that's what I would do. If you've got the two um, absolutes and you're missing Dark Victory, I would go ahead and sell that those two absolutes and put the money towards an omnibus and just get all three of those nice stories in omnibus format, oversized hardcover, and boom, you're all set. Because I don't see Dark Victory is commanding huge prices on the aftermarket, and you don't need that kind of headache. So go ahead and sell these two, buy the omnibus, or if you've got all three absolutes, you're all set. You've got you've got exactly what you need, and stick with it. You don't need to downsize to an omnibus. You're all set. You've got all three of exactly what you need. Big, beautiful art with a great storyline in all three of those. So stick with it. It's a win-win situation there. DC helped you out. So then we go to kind of a quandary book. People love the art in this book, but this is a book that should have worked because Brian Azzarello is a great writer and Jim Lee is a great artist. Superman for Tomorrow, but the book never really worked. It sort of tailed off and just sort of ran. It just never went anywhere, and so I can't recommend the absolute. If you, this is this the deluxe edition or just a hardcover? I think this is just a hardcover. It's always called Volume One. Um, I can't recommend the absolute because this always felt unfinished and felt like it didn't really go anywhere. And just was a bit of a disappointment. So I would not get the absolute if I were you on For Tomorrow. Kind of a bummer, but hold on to your cash and save shelf space. All Star Batman and Robin. Save your money, save your shelf space, save your sanity. There's no version of All Star Batman and Robin that you should get. I don't have it to show you. I don't have it on my iPad. I don't have it in floppy form. I don't have it in anything. I did own it in floppy form when it first came out. I read through it and I sold it back for about 10 cents on the dollar to the comic book store and said, I don't ever want to see this again. It is so poorly written. It's not even finished. There's another book that probably should have worked with Frank Miller and Jim Lee, but it's All Star Batman and Robin. It never finished, and what was written was garbage. So don't get the absolute of that. I'm begging you. Don't get the absolute of that. You don't need that in your life. Life's short enough. You don't need that in your life. Okay, the next books. Now, these are kind of fun books. I liked these books. I've been debating recently. I'm kind of lacking shelf space, but these were fun reads, and I really liked them. That's Absolute Superman and Batman. This run, where a lot of fun stuff happens, especially in this one, where with Michael Turner art and Superman and Batman discover Kara Zor-El. Um, and then there's another one where Luthor is going after the Man of Steel, accuses President Lex Luthor accuses Superman of terrible crimes against humanity, blah, blah, blah. And then there's the one, Absolute Power, where Superman and Batman are in charge of the world. These were fun books, not super deep, super radical, but they were fun to read. They are by Jeff Loeb, and Jeff Loeb, with nice art on all of them, but especially Michael Turner art on this one. I've been debating whether or not they're still in print, and I've been debating on whether or not I should get these in Absolute, because they are fun and they are real popcorn entertainment. So I'm gonna say you should get them in Absolute because I'm going to. So I mean, if I'm recommending that to you, I should do it too, right? So yeah, get it in Absolute because I'm going to. You'll see it in a haul soon. Sometime this year, I'm going to do it. Sometime in the next 3 months. This is April 2019, so sometime by the summer. Yes, that's my pledge to you. We're number one. Okay, the next one. This is kind of a tough one. Absolute Justice League by Geoff Johns and Jim Lee again. Now, I am a huge fan of this run. From beginning to end, I love Justice League. But DC's done a bit of a weird thing with this, where the first books are in an absolute, then it's a bunch of standard hardcovers, and then the last volumes are in an omnibus. So you got absolute, you've heard me complain about this before. Absolute, standard hardcovers, omnibus. That makes no sense. That is there's no continuity there. I mean, it doesn't look right on a shelf. It's not any kind of uniformity. It makes no sense. Why not release everything as an omnibus or everything as an absolute? So as much as I love this story and think Jim Lee's art would look boss in an absolute, I'm just going to keep my standard hardcovers because I don't want it to be absolute hardcovers omnibus. That's a decision that's going to have to be left up to you. If you want the Justice League run to look like that, go for it. I don't want it to look like that, so I'm not up for it. Absolute Joker and Luthor. Brian Azzarello again with Lee Bermejo's art. These are really good reads, really well written, and Lee Bermejo is a fan favorite of a lot of people. And I see this book on sale an awful lot. So it's not hard to find. It's easy to get. I see it on sale all the time. So I'm going to say, since it's well written, these are standard hardcovers. I don't own it, but I'm going to say if you don't own these, These are books to strongly consider to get an absolute format. The artwork is great and the story's great. So I would get these in absolute, even though I don't have them. Uh, it's more a case of I just don't have the room for them. But if you have the room for them, strongly consider getting Luthor and Joker as an absolute. I would. I mean, if I had the space, I would. Now there's a absolute that's a skinny absolute. It's 6 inches. That's 6 inches. That's kind of a small. I won't even go there. It's 6 issues and an annual. It's called Green Lantern Rebirth. It's by Geoff Johns. Should you get that small absolute? If you have Geoff Johns Green Lantern, you don't need it. It's in here. So my recommendation is I think any Green Lantern fan probably already has it and already has it here. My recommendation is if you're a Green Lantern fan, you need all three of these Geoff Johns omnibuses. So go get these instead. That's my recommendation there. Don't get that omnibus for Rebirth. It's a great story, but it's a very great story, but you need to get the omnibuy first. Okay, here's another thing I haven't upgraded, but I encourage you to because so many people have done it, because so many people love this book, love this artwork. Fantastic story. I have all 6 books, and I just don't feel like spending the dosh for the 3 issues, the 3 books for the absolutes for Preacher. Now, this is an incredibly well written book with incredible Steve Dillon art, the late great Steve Dillon. He is at his best in this. This is one of the greatest comic book series ever written. It's in a lot of people's top 5s and top 10s. I keep this. This isn't even a deluxe. This is just standard. But I bought all 6 of these, and I just can't see selling them and getting pennies on the dollar and then spending all that money on absolutes. So I chose to keep these standards. If you don't have Preacher, you owe it to yourself to get Preacher and get it in absolute format. That is something you need to do because Preacher is awesome and deserves to be in absolute format. Um, Steve Dillon's art is second to none. It's great. Now, here's a book I have in deluxe format, and I'm staying in deluxe format, even though it's in trade paperback, it's coming out in an omnibus, and it's also an absolute. That's why The Last Man. I'm staying in deluxe because the absolutes offer absolutely no extras whatsoever. And that's one thing you want in an absolute is some kind of extras. Just something. Give me something. And Why the Last Man has absolutely no extras. And I don't even know. I mean, the art's interesting and the story's great, but I don't know that I consider this art groundbreaking like something by Alex Ross or something. Story is fantastic, but I'm not sure that this art is that great that it deserves an absolute. So I would not upgrade to an absolute in this. The deluxes are fine, the paperback's fine. Knock yourself out and get a 1,600 page omnibus if you want, but I'm thinking this does not warrant an absolute. Absolute Identity Crisis. I don't have a copy to show you because it's one of the worst books I've ever read. Terrible story, terrible art, characters that are written completely out of character, doing things they don't normally do at all. Absolute Identity Crisis is to be avoided at all costs. Don't get it. Arg. Absolute Authority. I sold my old absolutes of Absolute Authority. One, because they're incomplete. The old versions from Wildstorm. DC is putting out, I hope, new absolutes and a new omnibus. I'm getting that are complete. I'm getting the omnibus because it's cheaper and it's complete. If you love the art so much that you want the absolutes, boom, I think you should do it. I personally am getting the omnibus because it is cheaper and it's just as complete. That's, my kind of decision. So I got a few more to go, so we're going to stop right there. I don't want to put everybody to sleep, so we're going to have part 3 of this. So please leave comments. I respond to all comments. And leave a like if you can, subscribe if you can, and peace and love, peace and love. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it.